Hello and welcome if you're new to my channel, and if you're a subscriber, a warm welcome back. This video is part of my Staycation inspiration series where I take you around a fabulous property in the United Kingdom as a way of getting it on your radar, possibly getting your creative juices going in terms of potential holiday ideas, or it's content that's fun, it's light, it's easy to watch, but regardless, the intention is you're inspired. I'm Anesu Sagonda and I produce educational luxury content for anyone after the finer things. So whether you're someone who's young and starting out and wanting to reap the benefits of buying quality from the get-go, or you're new to money and wanting to learn how to navigate the terrain, or you're into luxury but you want to focus more on the brands that operate under the radar and packing a mighty quality punch, then my content is very much geared towards you. The Nomad Hotel in Covent Garden is quite possibly the most glamorous, the hippest, the trendiest hotel opening in London for 2021. But regardless, it's indisputably a chic hotel. It's a joint partnership in the United Kingdom between an American group, Seidel, and investment firm BTC UK. Seidel Group is also behind the Ned and Soho House in the United Kingdom. And in the United States, they have two other Nomad hotels, one in Las Vegas and one in Los Angeles. Up until a couple of months ago, they had another Nomad hotel in New York, but unfortunately, it has become a casualty of the pandemic. Seidel Group is legendary for bringing historic buildings back to life. The new Nomad Hotel in London is their first European hotel, and it's located on what used to be Bow Street Magistrates Court and Police Station. First opened in 1740, it closed down in 2006, and it was the most famous magistrates court in England. Located in Covent Garden, which is prime theatre heartland, you have some of the biggest and best theatres in London within 5 to 10 minutes walking distance from the Nomad Hotel. Directly opposite the Nomad, you have the Royal Opera House, and then about a minute and a half away, you have Lyceum Theatre, where Lion King is in residence. And then directly behind the Royal Opera House, you have the Piazza, another major pull factor apart from the theatres in Covent Garden. Off the Piazza, you have a lot of activities that happen for tourists. You have professional buskers who perform pretty much every hour of the day, Monday to Sunday, well into the evening. And then you also have a number of very well-known, incredibly popular restaurants. Think of the Ivy Grill, Sushi Samba, you have Cora Pearl, Balthazar, you have 26 Grain, just to name a few. And then coming back to Bow Street, the actual street that the Nomad Hotel is located on, you can either arrive by tube. You have Covent Garden Tube Station on the Piccadilly line, which is about maybe a 3 to 4 minute walk away. You can either come in through one of the closer airports. You have London Heathrow, London City Airport, which are about 40 minutes drive away. And if you're coming in privately, you have Luton, Stansted, Farnborough, all within an hour and a half from Covent Garden, depending entirely, of course, on traffic and time of day that you are traveling. It's centrally located. It's in a superb location in relation to all the other tourist attractions around central London. When you arrive at the Nomad Hotel, you are met by a doorman who then guides you towards the main entrance. You go up 3 or 4 steps. He opens the big glass door, and on the other side is another doorman who takes your luggage and then directs you towards the reception area. There are 2 distinct things you'll notice when you walk into the Nomad. Firstly, it's a very dimly lit hotel. The majority of it is dimly lit. The only place you'll really notice a lot of light is when you come through into the lobby. In front of you is a towering atrium, and that atrium has glass walls all around. So you have a lot of very natural light streaming through during the day. But as sunlight wanes, it starts to darken, and it's consistent throughout the hotel. The other thing you'll also notice is the decor. It's very consistent throughout the hotel. What you get in the lobby, you'll see all around the hotel little coves with the same decor. You have a lot of very plush velvet armchairs and sofas, a lot of very leafy foliage. You have woven rugs on the ground. You have very heavy patterned drapes. And there's also a lot of freestanding life-size pieces of artwork. So you come into the lobby, it's richly decorated in your chocolate browns, your earthy tones. So think of your beiges, your caramels, your creams, the accents of red and orange. And then you get varying hues of green, from about olive green through to your emerald green. So you come in, there's the towering atrium, and then to the right of that is the reception area. And then immediately to your right is the library. And the library is the living room area of the hotel, and it's the guests only space. As I mentioned, the doorman directs you towards the reception area. Your check-in procedure, the whole process takes about 10 minutes. By the time they've warmly welcomed you, given you all the paperwork, you've read through it, made the necessary payments, and they also charge you a little extra. I was in a suite for the 2 days that I was there, charged £150 extra for the minibar. It's either returned to your card if you don't use any of it, or it's returned at the end of your stay, minus whatever your usage was. Once that was all done, I was then escorted to the room. The only exception was that I was presented with a non-alcoholic cocktail, because when I arrived, there was a slight issue at the door, and as a peace offering, I was given the cocktail, which was delicious. It was very colorful, and it had quite a kick to it. I think it had quite a bit of ginger. And I drank that as I was escorted to my room. And by the time I got to the room, the issue was long forgotten. In the room, I was shown around the room and talked through how to operate the various amenities, what was available to use. And then the person left, and my luggage arrived about 20-25 minutes later. I was incredibly lucky enough to have stayed in one of the suites. It was an entry-level suite, the Parlour suite, and the next level up is the Magistrate suite, and then the top end is the Royal Opera suites. Suites typically start from about just over £1,000 through to about £2,500 for a Royal Opera suite, depending entirely, of course, on the day of week and time of year. There are 4 entry-level rooms. You have your classic, superior, there's grande, there's salon, and the classic starts from about £500 a night. Very different when you look at what you get in comparison to Heckfield Place, for example. I'm going to attach the video above. Heckfield Place is a country manor, so you're spoilt for space, whereas in London, space comes at an absolute premium, and you will find people typically build up as opposed to across. The Parlour suite I was in was 35 square meters. The Heckfield Place suite was double that size. But although it was 35 square meters, you didn't feel cramped, and 2 people, there were 2 of us in the space for the weekend. Very comfortable. It's split into 3 spaces. You have the sitting room area, the bedroom, and then the bathroom, whether it's a freestanding bathtub or a walk-in shower, whatever you have, depending on what you've opted for. But you come into the room, and immediately to your left is a very well-kitted, well-stocked mini bar with ribbed glassware. I really like ribbed glassware, so I got off to a very good start. And then in front of you, a big plush velvet sofa, and opposite that a large wall-mounted widescreen TV. And then immediately to your right, as you walk towards the room, is your wardrobe. It has a safe in there. You also have other bits and pieces, blow dryer, hair straightener, slippers, dressing gowns, and so forth. Come into the room. The room has a desk immediately to your left, and then a big king-size bed, freestanding piece of artwork, and then the ensuite facility, which was a walk-in shower. And that is all mosaic tiled throughout with the marble top. In the bedroom, it's a king-size bed, and there are 2 things that are deal breakers when it comes to staycations. The most important things to me are the bed and the linen. They have to work very well together. It's one and the same. And then the other is spa treatments. I always have to have a treatment or two. It's part of the staycation. It's part of the relaxing, unwinding, and just enjoying the facilities. And again, my only comparison at this point is Heckfield Place. But the two were very different. They were different in a good way. I liked both. Heckfield Place, fairly firm bed, and it had percale sheets that were incredibly crisp. They were light and very soft to the touch. Whereas with the Nomad, the sheets were heavier in weight. They were not as soft, but still very comfortable. I like them more so because it's starting to get a little colder in the evening, so something a little warmer. But what really stood out, I guess, as I mentioned earlier, it's getting colder. The duvet was incredibly light, but very warm as well, made for a very comfortable night's sleep. The spa is located on the first floor and they operate an appointment-only service. There are 2 spa partners in residence at the Nomad. The first is Ricario Studios, and they're focused on your restorative approach when it comes to your skin and body care, and their treatments are all about cellular stimulation. The second partner is de Mamiel, eponymously named after Anne de Mamiel, and she's an acclaimed skin health specialist, very much about the holistic approach when it comes to your skincare. When I started doing my research, trying to figure out what do I want to try, what stood out was the marketing material was incredibly Caucasian biased. All the models were Caucasian, and that immediately got my back up against the wall because I thought black and Caucasian skin is very different. The issues we have are very different, and therefore the treatments and so forth are going to be different. The material was Caucasian biased. Would they know what works for my skin, what to do with my black skin? And then throw into that, the prices were eye-wateringly expensive. We are talking 300, 400 pounds for a facial, for example. And I didn't have an issue with that price in the sense that that is what I'd expect from an establishment at that level. But what I had an issue with was, if I'm going to pay 300, 400 pounds for a facial, will they know what to do with my skin, how to do it? I will get the level of service that I would expect with a 300-400 pound facial, but will I get the benefits of the 300-400 pounds? I didn't have that confidence. I reached out to the brands prior to the staycation, but I didn't hear back in time. But hopefully I'll be able to try something before the year is up if there's something that is specifically geared that would work very well with my type of skin. But I was more than happy to use the money that I had earmarked for the spa at the bar, the in-house bar Side Hustle. A couple of months prior, I had been to Side Hustle as part of a date night. Side Hustle was literally a couple of minutes walk away from the restaurant where we're having dinner, and every publication in London had been talking about Side Hustle and touting it as the biggest, the best, the hippest bar opening of 2021, a must try. And because it was a couple of minutes walk away from the restaurant, we thought, why not have a cheeky drink in there before proceeding on to the restaurant? It's a Mexican themed restaurant in terms of the food, in terms of the drinks. There are a lot of Martin Parr photographs all around. When we walked in, it was incredibly wild. You had a good number of mixologists behind the bar, mixing drinks, showing off their skill, incredibly engaging, laughing around, joking with the drinkers. You had a good mix of drinkers in terms of age groups from different backgrounds. You had your mid-20s right through to your early mid-60s. You had your professionals from the city. You had the creators from the West End. You had tourists in there, male and female. It was absolutely raucous. It was a lot of fun. And as somebody who is not a big drinker, I don't particularly like tequila. I don't do shots. The menu, as you can imagine, being Mexican themed, was heavy on tequila. Thought I'd try a cocktail, can't go wrong, right? It's fused with something else. As somebody with full lips, I thought, hey, let me go with the hot lips and take it from there. I can always try something else. Hot lips ended up being the best cocktail ever. And it was actually the reason why I chose to go back to the Nomad for a staycation. Walked around, loved the look of the hotel. Throw into that the hot lips. I thought you can't go wrong with such a combination. It's a tequila-based cocktail. It's mixed with pineapple, there's mezcal, there's lemon, there's vanilla in there. And what you get is the sweetness of the tequila is just brought down a notch by the pineapple. And then you typically get that burn with tequila if you're not used to it. That's taken away with the mix of the pineapple and so forth. And then the glass, it's served in a tumbler with salt around the rim. So you get the sweetness of the tequila, and it's contrasted with the saltiness on the rim each time you take a sip, and then throw into that. The drink is served with a big cube ice block. It's clear, it doesn't have any air bubbles, any cracks, it's see-through, it's perfect. The cocktail is literally a 10 out of 10 in terms of the taste and also the presentation. Had one of those and then proceeded on to the restaurant for dinner, a couple of minutes walk away. You literally come out of the Nomad, turn right, and then immediately right down the alleyway. Walk to the end of the alleyway. On the left, it's a Spanish tapas restaurant called Barafina, very similar to Side Hustle in that it also has the small plate sharing concept. It was after that evening, I thought, you know what, having walked around the Nomad, enjoyed the hot lips, great vibe all around, why not go to the Nomad for the staycation? The New York outpost that I'd wanted to try next time I'm in New York had closed, and I thought, this is as good as it's going to get. Try it here in London, and the rest is history. In the morning, had breakfast in the library, and as I mentioned earlier, the library is a guest-only space. It's made up of 3 living rooms. It's the living room of the hotel, and it's 3 living rooms, free seating. You come in, you take a seat wherever you would like, and breakfast is served. Wide selection of options from your lighter to your heavier options. Think of smashed avocado on toast, omelets, pastries, pancakes, and then on the heavier side, various fried options, a breakfast burrito that's incredibly filling and pretty much will set you up for the entire day. The library has an incredibly well thought out selection of books. You get hotels that typically buy books by the yard for decorative purposes, but with the Nomad, they've really thought through their selection of books in the library. The intention, I guess, is to make it as comfortable as possible, keep you there reading, you're eating and drinking within the hotel. Wide array of books under different topics, from your classics to poetry, music, London opera, art and crafts, theatre and drama. They've pretty much covered most topics, and within each topic, they have some of the best reads. You could easily spend anywhere from a day to weeks in the library just working through the range of books on offer in there. During the day, you're having tea and coffee. There is a light snack menu with your usual suspects, but very well made. Think of your rosemary and lemon chips. There is black truffle hot dog. There is a freshly made burger. There is fried chicken. There's miso cod. There are just so many options. And then in the evening, you have the cocktails and wine and a snack menu, either before dinner or if you just want something light. Had breakfast and then spent a couple of hours just working through some of the books, and then decided to do a few touristy things, but things that were more under the radar. Started with the open house tour of the Royal Opera House. You can get tickets for the Royal Opera House, wander around, see the entire opera house. And then what they have on each floor is some of their performers doing 15-20 minute performances of upcoming theatres. And then they also have an alfresco cafe that overlooks the Covent Garden piazza. So you get to see the magic of the piazza, but a little removed from the noise and the crowd. And then they also have the costume department next to the cafe. And you only notice after you've peered into the costume department to look at the amazing costumes that there's signs everywhere saying, please do not peer through here. It's not a zoo. There are actually people working in here. But it's so spectacular to think the costumes are right there. They're being made, they're being repaired right in front of you. You can't help yourself. Spent about an hour in the Royal Opera House. and then went onto the piazza, wandered around, and then also went to Mariage Frères that I've spoken about in my tea video, which I'm going to attach above. Mariage Frères ship globally, and they are a chain that stocks some of the best teas you'll ever find. From there, backtracked past the Nomad and went to Aldwych Theatre to watch Tina Turner the musical. And then after that, came back to the hotel, read for another hour in the library, and then snoozed for an hour before cocktails at 7 and then dinner at 8. Cocktails in the library and then dinner in the Nomad Restaurant, which is in the towering atrium I mentioned when you come into the hotel. Once you're in the restaurant, the Nomad Restaurant, you have the glass ceiling and you're able to look through and you see the stars at night. There's very little lighting within the hotel. It's dimmed. They have a little bit of everything. So the menu is not as specific, for example, as the Side Hustle with the Mexican focus. It's a little bit of everything. And as you can imagine, at that level, drinks are perfect, service is impeccable, the food was delicious. And what I like about service is it's effortless. You hardly see the waiters and waitresses. They just glide around you and take care of everything in a very low-key, non-fuss manner. Once dinner was done, went to a bar that was just tucked away from the restaurant. I think it's more a residence bar for nightcaps. Had a nightcap and then retired upstairs around midnight. Next morning, way too tired for breakfast, but had access to the same library menu in bed, had that, and then checked out at 12. From there, went to Highgate Cemetery, had a tour of the cemetery, and then came back, picked up luggage 20 minutes later, back at home. And the whole experience was surreal. You're in London around areas you know, but you are a tourist, you're seeing things from the other side. It was a lot of fun. But looking specifically at the Nomad, it's a hotel I cannot recommend highly enough. It's a mature hotel. It's for adults. It's a hotel I wouldn't recommend for young children. It's not geared for children from an aesthetics point of view, and even from a facilities point of view. It's dimly lit, a lot of sharp corners, edges, freestanding artwork. It will be difficult for children to run around. It's a place for adults. It's grown up, it's mature, it's understated. It's a place where you come, it's quiet, you're with an audience that's after the finer things. It's a more discerning audience that comes to the Nomad. It's very well thought out, well put together. The service is faultless, literally. You arrive on a Friday. I would recommend 2-3 days. It depends on your London stay, but if you're coming in for a staycation, I'd recommend 2-3 days maximum. You come in the first day, stay in-house, wander out the second, third day, and make use of the facilities. They've been well thought out and they're geared to make your trip as pleasurable as possible. It's not just facilities that are there from an aesthetics point of view, but for you to use and really enjoy. But any further questions about the Nomad, Covent Garden, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, do like it, do share it, and of course subscribe so you don't miss out on the next staycation.